Hi, my name is Kari and I'm a cancer fighter. No, I've not personally had to deal with cancer. I was having cancer, but I've been deeply impacted by it. Quick show of hands, how many people know somebody who's had cancer? I think then you'll understand my passion, and as I learn quickly, maybe my overly ambitious drive. I was first impacted by cancer at age 18 when my grandfather passed from lymphoma. Years later, it attacked my mom with breast cancer, and I'm glad to say she's now a 16-year survivor. After that, I was inspired to walk a 60-mile walk through Boston for 3 days and honored my mom to fight against breast cancer. Yes, physically it would be challenging, but more, I was scared to death of the fact that I had to raise $2,000, no matter what. I couldn't afford to pay the difference if I didn't make it, so I called up my mom and I talked her into paying the difference, or donating the difference if I didn't make it. I think she knew then what I didn't know, which it wasn't going to be a problem for me. But her guarantee for me helped me take that first step against this crazy goal. I started a letter writing campaign to all the people I knew. I didn't listen to the advice from the foundation on how to best fundraise. Instead, I approached people how I would want to be approached. I talked about why I was doing it, how much I hated cancer, and I hoped that they would support me with any amount that they could possibly afford. And if they couldn't, just please send good energy to my legs, because I knew I was going to need it. Quickly, I received both, and soon $2,000 was in my sights, and in fact, at the end, I ended up raising $4,400, more than doubling my initial goal. That May, I flew to Boston. I'd never been to Boston, so this was going to be an adventure. I didn't know a single soul when I went there, but that didn't last long. You see, the cancer community is a really tight-knit group, and we're all there for each other and welcome anybody into it at any time. I realized that I could make a difference in my own way at this walk. Oops. Sorry, I haven't been clicking through. The following year, after I did that walk, my friend and then roommate Kathy was diagnosed with gastrointestinal stromal tumors. It's a rare form of incurable cancer that chemo and radiation won't work on. The only way to fight it is through surgery and experimental drugs. When you hear this news, it's pretty overwhelming. And at the same time, when I heard that news, the 3-day walk also came to Minnesota. So I decided I would keep walking. It was my way of making a difference and channeling something I felt very helpless against. I did feel a lot of guilt because Kathy had this rare form of cancer, and here I was walking for breast cancer, but she informed me that drugs she was on actually came from breast cancer research. She was actually one of my biggest supporters from my first walk to my last. So I continued to walk. I walked 4 more 60-mile walks for breast cancer in the Twin Cities, raising a total of $34,000. I attribute my fundraising success to 2 things. 1, I was doing a big thing and people want to support me, but secondly, and more importantly, people hate cancer. In 2009, Kathy passed from her cancer. As I sat with her in her final hours, I decided I needed to go to Austin, Texas and ride the Live Strong Challenge on my bike. We talked about doing it together many times, but we never did. So I decided I was going to ride the ride. I hadn't rode my bike in years. Spin class did not count. But I was committed and I signed up. You see, Live Strong was about all cancers. And that night became very important to me to fight for all cancers, not just breast cancer. And they're also there for people who have cancer now. And I watched Kathy go through an 8-year journey with cancer, and that was also very important to me. I once again started a fundraising campaign. I used social media to sell Cancer Sucks t-shirts, something we'd created to benefit Kathy and now would benefit Live Strong. The Cancer Sucks t-shirts traveled around the world. These are examples of some of the pictures people would start to post online. As you see, they were everywhere. It became huge. I had strangers tracking me down to buy one. Why? Because cancer really sucks. I raised $8,500 that year for Live Strong. The next year I headed back to Austin to participate again. Using social media as my platform and a fundraiser, I raised $20,000. The following year, another $20,000. The year after that, $15,000. Totaling $63,000 raised in 4 short years with Live Strong. I still can't believe that when I hear it. While raising that money, I was often asked if any of it would stay in Minnesota, and that got me thinking. So after the 2012 Austin Challenge, I decided I wanted to take that money I'd raised and use it directly in Minnesota. I wanted to help people with all types of cancers And I wanted to help people, single people like Kathy that were struggling to pay their medical bills while fighting cancer. You see, after watching her worry so much about her financials, it really became a focus to her rather than even her health. Financial stress isn't good for any of us, much less somebody fighting cancer. I figured if I could raise $100,000 on my own, imagine what I could do if I kept it local and got local businesses involved. Those were my plans. They were grand and maybe a bit ambitious. But that's when Fuel Your Fight Foundation was born. So the journey began. First came the board of directors. I was pretty on purpose about who I invited onto the board of directors. I had friends that were passionate about the fight, and they all brought a very specific talent to the team. We had a name. We had registered with the state. We got our 501c status with the federal government. We secured a web domain. We had a logo. My home was our headquarters. Off to a great start. What could go wrong? In a short time, I started learning some valuable lessons. First one was leading a volunteer board is hard and should be handled as a business arrangement, not as friends. My board was composed of friends in my life that believed in the mission and wanted to help. That was great. What I wasn't used to was actually giving direction. It's the difference between asking favors to come and help with a fundraiser and actually doing work and having to give them direction and keep them on task. So it took me a little while, but eventually I got there. Second was setting clear expectations for me, the president of the board, and how to bring in more people that could do what I'm not great at. So the biggest lesson I learned was, as president, first off, you're going to do all of it. But secondly, is you have to be a salesperson. The problem, I hate sales. I can talk to anybody about cancer. I will listen to your journey. I will get you excited about our mission. I will get you excited about fighting cancer. But asking for that close, not good at it. And that's not where I find my energy. Luckily, I had one person on my board that could help, but I also knew I needed a lot more than that in the end. Third, and this is a really big one for me, set clear expectations of a volunteer board member and interview around that. So my friends who wanted to be on the board weren't necessarily ready for the heavy lifting and the truly commit. They wanted to be part of making a difference. However, shortly after we formed, we had our first board member quit. Sorry, I shouldn't have committed. I just got caught up in your passion, and I don't have the time. Totally understandable, but really disappointing. Then shortly thereafter, another board member quit, with nothing more than an email to the group saying she now had a conflict and couldn't be part of the board. Again, understandable, but really really disappointing because she was actually leading one of our biggest fundraisers. So here we were, just starting out, in a bit of a crunch, but we had our passion and we were ready to make this work. We had a website built and it was functioning, big win. We had partnerships with White Bear Subaru, Gabe's by the Park, Sue McLean, and Associates. The Minnesota Lynx had made us a foundation for one of their games, and they honored us at halftime. Sue McLean offered up a table at all the Minnesota Zoo concerts in Apple Valley for that summer to promote and promote our organization. And she did this for absolutely free. She was a fabulous woman. But soon, a lot more lessons were learned. The first one, having somebody donate all of these events, basically 15 to 20 events that summer, means a full-time role coordinating and organizing the volunteers and the details. Now, luckily, or unluckily, I was in a place of unemployment that summer and able to do the work. But if I had not been, I still don't know how we would have got that work done. And the biggest lesson is you can raise all the money in the world, but without a robust marketing campaign, no one will come and request money from you. We now had money after sponsorships and fundraisers, but no one knew we existed. And because of that, we also couldn't get people to volunteer or big corporate donations, which is what you need to succeed. We were a tiny blip in the sea of charities. All of these lessons combined are what made me start to wonder, was this going to be sustainable? It was not that the strategy or vision wasn't there. It definitely was. So were the passion and the will to make a difference by the board, the people who supported us. The thing I didn't think about was how much time and effort it would take to really get down into the weeds of the strategy and the execution. Everything up until now had come easy for me when it came to raising awareness and funds. The women on the board and the people who supported us all had very busy lives. So the best of intentions in wanting to help make a difference interfered with the lives of their jobs, their families, and for some, even the know-how. A few months before we shut down, I met with some nonprofits. I wanted to know their best practices, and I continually heard the same thing over and over. You need to hire somebody full-time to grow your foundation. Well, my morals, maybe right or wrong, got in the way here, and I could not take the money that we'd raised and spend it to pay somebody to grow our foundation. We had asked people to donate the money that would go directly to cancer patients versus hiring an employee. I think this was the time when I came to the realization that I couldn't raise up this foundation and make it the success the way I wanted it to. Don't get me wrong, we had wins. We did help 2 individuals with grants to help pay off their medical bills. We were recognized by Sue McLean, the Minnesota Lynx, as foundations making a difference in the community. We touched many people's lives by hearing their stories, having fundraisers, and giving an outlet for them to fight cancer. When I finally made the actual announcement to the board that we should shut down the foundation, it was very disappointing for all of us. However, this work was my baby, right? It was a personal mission for me to make a difference in the name of my friend Kathy. I believe today it was also a huge part of my grieving process. I had to work through the emotions of feeling like a failure when we shut down, but ultimately, we all knew it was the right decision. Looking back now, I know I would have done some things differently. I would have completed a competitive analysis and understood exactly what other people were doing out there that would have made us more unique. I would have met with other nonprofits to learn what it takes to be successful and then move forward. Up until now, like I said before, fundraising and awareness always came easy to me. I would have treated the board as a business board, as a nonprofit truly as a business. And the biggest lesson learned is that it takes much more than passion to be successful. Some of my best memories were when we were speaking with people about their cancer experiences and offering them support, well, emotionally, and also through our resources page on our website. When cancer strikes, people want to know somebody's there for them. They want, and I love the fact that Feel Your Fight was one of those places that people would go to. Even now, even though we've dissolved, we still keep the web page up, and the Facebook page up, and the Twitter account still alive, and we're very active on it, and people engage with us. A very important piece of this website is our one-stop shop for resources. So when you or someone you know is impacted by cancer, we have one place you can go. As I'm sure most of you know, when somebody gets impacted by cancer, it's overwhelming. People start throwing information at you, giving you advice, where to turn. It's overwhelming. You don't want to deal with it. So instead, we created, here's one link, and here's all the different places you can come and go to get information as you go through your diagnosis. My passion is still there. Just this past weekend, I spent time with the Be the Match program. I volunteered, and I'm looking to how I can get better involved with their organization. Last year, I rode through New York City in the 5 Boroughs ride, and I also rode my bike across Iowa for Team Livestrong, raising over $10,000. This year, I'm committed to raising a total of $8,000 for 4 local charities, bringing it local again, including Gilda's Club in Wayzata, where they help all people with any kind of cancer. I'm doing this by riding 100 miles on August 15th in the Do Good bike ride. It's something we made up. It's not a real bike ride. I have friends that I've met through Livestrong who are coming in from Wisconsin, Iowa, Illinois to help me get through my first ever century ride. Sort of like the first 3-day walk I talked about, this is a really big goal. Only this time, I'm not worried about the fundraising. I'm just worried about if I can make it through 100 miles in one day. Luckily, as I said earlier, the cancer fighting community is pretty tight. So we have each other's back in these moments, and that's how come those women are coming to town. But more importantly, we also have yours when and if cancer should strike. Thanks.